Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm very glad to do something different today, which is a collaboration with another Gothic YouTuber called Helga Keturka. She has a great channel that is dedicated to all things Gothic, especially to music and festival vlogs, but she also does other very interesting videos. So if you're interested to that, please hop over to her channel and check it out. On my channel we're doing a video that is like more chatty, more on the Gothic subculture and some recommendations on our own experiences, and on her channel we're making a video on how to Gothic autumn, what to read, what to watch, what to listen to, what to wear and what to do in autumn as a Goth, and our recommendations. So if you're interested in that, please check out the video that will go up on her channel. And thank you very much for the collaboration, Helga. It was a pleasure for me and I hope you enjoy the video.
What was my first encounter with Gothic subculture? I don't know if that counts, but when I was 7 years old, I went to Germany. It was summer and I think it could be a festival season, but I'm not sure. So there was a bunch of people wearing black, like mohawks, and I'm pretty sure those were Goths. And I thought, wow, these people are beautiful. And then I forgot about them for some time, because no way I could have seen something like this in my area where I grew up. So the real encounter with Gothic culture was when I was like about 13. At that point I knew I knew that there are Goths, but I never heard the music. I thought that I never heard their music. So there was one girl who lived near me, and she came up to my place to help me to register on social media, and she basically told me about Goths, and she showed me Lacrimosa. And at that point I thought, wow, maybe Goth is not for me. Then I tried once again and I actually ended up falling in love with a couple of Lacrimosa songs. But it's not the perfect band to start with, in my opinion. So I kind of started to embrace other features of Gothic subculture. At that point I was already into dark horror movies, I was into dark clothes and heavy music. So I wasn't like exactly Goth. I was a poser, yes, but who wasn't, like, at 13 years old? That's ridiculous. And slowly but surely I opened many more bands.
I think I remember that quite vividly because I've been like around 20, so you could argue maybe pretty late for getting into that subculture. But I actually had never really heard much of Goth and Gothic culture, Gothic music and everything. I was living in a very different kind of bubble in my teenage years, and I was just introduced to that through my boyfriend, who brought me to a boutique in the city of Bonn, and they have very beautiful Gothic clothing, and I just wanted to look at it and I found it so beautiful. Everything from the colors, from the fabric, the cuts, everything, that was just amazing. And I was so inspired also to wear something different for the first time. And I remember what I got. I got like a corsage, and then I got a very beautiful skirt that is very lengthy until the ground, and I love the outfit still. I still wear it today, so a few years later now. And from then on, I've been exploring the Gothic culture more and more. So I only realized from time to time that there is a whole subculture behind it, that there's fashion and music and literature and architecture and everything connected, and that I can explore it. And that was my start to get into the subculture.
I think it was Sopor Aeternos. I saw a couple of videos somewhere on the internet, and it was something like, what was that? And I became a little obsessed with the whole vibe, aesthetics and mood, and the music. It's absolutely magical. But I've always been drawn to anything dark. And although I was into sport, basically my icons were Sarah Connor, Lara Croft, etc. But at the same time, it's like I was carrying a darkness within me. I was born to be goth. But many people do not consider me as goth. Well, I sometimes also have huge questions to myself, because I know a whole bunch of goth bands, goth artists, and the whole history. I did my homework, yeah. But the majority of music that I listen to, I wouldn't say it's goth. It's more of industrial, dark electro, aggro tech, black metal, surprise, doom and gothic metal.
I feel like for me it was realizing how much I've been loving Gothic for years already, after I had this experience of learning about the fashion first that I told you about just before. And I was learning about what Gothic meant, you know, from the fashion to the music, of course, but also the literature and the architecture and everything. And for me, the literature was a big part, definitely, because I only then realized that I've always been a big fan of the 19th century, and Gothic literature is essentially 19th century literature for most of its part. Or if it's not written in the 19th century, many stories are also like set in Victorian England, for example, or other places that are in the 19th century or early 20th. So oftentimes you get right into this time if you want to through the stories. And I've also all the time throughout the years I've been a fan of Romanticism as a movement. I'm a big fan of Caspar David Friedrich as a painter in Germany, and also I love the stories of E.T.A. Hoffmann, Edgar Allan Poe, and everything like that. So I think unconsciously I've been Gothic in many ways before even understanding that this is a whole subculture and a whole term that is connected to so many things. I mean, of course, you can argue oftentimes what the subculture is made of and what is like other parts that are considered Gothic or called Gothic, but not everyone would agree with me if I said that this, for me, all of this is Gothic and all of this is important to me. But I think just realizing that I've unconsciously been drawn to it all the time, and that it connects so many things, that was definitely something that made me fall in love with Gothic. The story that came to mind for me was a story that I really even like to tell people. It's a very small encounter, but I still think it made me smile at the time. And it was when I was coming back from work one day, and I was just wearing my usual Gothic outfit, like a black coat, black dress, boots, and I was just on my bike riding home from work, and I was not thinking about it because that's just like my basic look. wearing black, or I mean today red, but oftentimes I'm wearing black. And I don't really think about it anymore. Then there were two little schoolboys, like maybe 10 years old, and they were screaming at me, "Are you coming from the graveyard or what?" And I was just answering, "Yes, I am," and was screaming back at them. And I found that quite funny because I did not really even wonder about why they were like approaching me that way. I think they wanted to be funny in a way, but I also wanted to be funny back to them. So basically that was one of the encounters that I really liked, and that I still like to think about, because I found it's like very nice, just a small moment in one day that made me realize that I am obviously Gothic and also recognized as a Goth in the everyday life.
Don't think that I have like a funny story. I have much more sad stories, but I have like the cute stories. For example, we have two kids and they go to school. And before that, they went to kindergarten. And the amount of attention that I get and my husband gets from kids is wow. Because kids are always very curious. What is this that I'm wearing on my head? Like, is that hair? Or you have a nice makeup and etc. And they call me like Morticia or something like that. And it's nice. It's a nice thing. I do love kids. Of course, I did have a daily judgment because of the way I look. From my parents, from the school, from everybody literally around. Even in our alternative community. But it never bothered me that much. I knew what I was doing, so I was ready to face it. I got daily judgment even before I became Goth, for the way I look, for the things I do, basically. So it wasn't something new to me. I understood that it's not about me, it's their problem. I do not accept comments and judgment from people that I do not like myself and that I don't respect.
I think there was definitely a time, and some people still don't understand it, especially when I started wearing less light and flowery outfits, and I just happened to start with it and then I never stopped. So I think some comments I got was something like, "Oh, this would also look good on you in color," or "Don't always wear black," and something like that. But I think nobody ever was saying something really mean. Some people just make fun of it, or they think that only wearing black makes you miss out on so many other things. But I think at the same time that, I mean, other people have other styles. Some people wear, I don't know, a lot of white or a lot of pink or whatever, and everyone can choose that their own way. So I think that's the beauty of it.
Well, here I should say it's the abandoned buildings, like in general. Although I'm very much into old graveyards, I used to spend a lot of times on the graveyards, as well as in the abandoned buildings. We had a lot of them actually, and the graveyard was too far away from where I lived. I quite enjoyed my lonely walks to the cemetery. It took me probably like an hour or two to get there by bus, or sometimes I just walked through the city. And when I got there, I spent like 2 hours reading or listening to the music and just walking, hanging around with myself and dead people. Classic. But more than that, I prefer to spend time in the abandoned buildings. It was very dangerous. When I look back on those days, I'm amazed how stupid and adventurous. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody, but it was the way I entertained myself.
It's probably graveyards. I even love going for walks on graveyards because they are so calm and peaceful. But at the same time, I also love castle ruins. I love monasteries and some remote places outside in nature, that like misty forests. I think most home to me actually are the cemeteries. The connection to the dead, I don't know, but I just don't think too much about it, I think. So yeah, that's my short answer to that question.
It's maybe sad, it's again maybe melancholic, depressing, but not scary at all.
I think for me, books and music are always fine, because I feel like if you realize that it's like scaring you or terrifying you or unsettling you, then it is easy to stop. But in a movie or a series, I think you're like right in the middle, and it's sometimes too late to even realize that you're unsettled. And for me that happened when watching The Haunting of Hill House. I don't know if you know, it's like a series that is following the story of the so-called Crane family in America. They've been like they have several children, and the children have been growing up in a old country house, like a big estate where weird things happened, and each of them has a trauma in their own way, and they have to deal with these experiences in their adult life now, and it haunts them in different ways. And I think it's five children, I don't really remember, but some, like in general the idea and the structure is really good, but it's, for me it was just too much of classic horror. And I think in this regard they did the series very well, but for me I couldn't really watch it. I've been getting really bad dreams, and I was so glad that I just stopped watching it at some point, because I realized that it was unsettling too much.
With the literature, I won't be unique here, because what do you think I've read at the cemeteries? Of course, it was Edgar Allan Poe. Thank you very much. But as a Russian-speaking person, I could recommend Gogol. If you are very much into Edgar Allan Poe, but you also prefer something folk-ish, you gotta check Gogol. Trust me. And if I should pick just one album as a starter pack, like whether you like it or you hate it, probably for someone it'll work, but it is what it is. I would recommend Sopor Aeternos, this album. But if you're a younger person and you also like Edgar Allan Poe, this would be a great combo for you if you read Edgar Allan Poe and listen to this album of Sopor Aeternos. Many people do not consider it as a great album of Sopor Aeternos. There are much better ones, but yes, but we're talking here about a starter pack. So this was my first album of Sopor Aeternos, and this was the album that made me fall in love with goth subculture in general. But I would also recommend this one.
I think for a book I would choose something that is not too lengthy and also not too well known, because that's just boring. I would choose The Woman in Black by Susan Hill from 1983. It is a very chilling ghost story. It is about a young solicitor who gets sent to an estate of a woman who recently deceased, and he is asked to settle this estate, and then he only learns that this place is haunted by a female ghost, and there is a whole story behind it, and from then many things turn bad for him. And it is very atmospheric and suspenseful, and also quite a quick read, and it revolves around many famous Gothic tropes and also is in a very perfect Gothic setting, so it's absolutely perfect to start out with. So for a song or album, I would either choose A Forest by The Cure, because it's my favorite song and I feel like it's got a perfect Gothic sound, or the whole album Disintegration by The Cure. That is also very, very good, and good to get into this typical Gothic rock sound from the 1980s.
You know, I have, like most of people, very different stages in my life. I had times where I've been almost like alone with my interests, and sometimes there was a bunch of people who would share interest with me. I have a husband and we basically share our interests. We go to the festivals, to the parties, not as frequently as we wished, but we have 2 kids, so we cannot be like that free. But it's okay for us. I would say that Gothic thing spreads its roots very deeply into like every aspect of our lives, whether it's music, activities, the way we look, the way we think. Apart from that, I don't even know. That's the preferences in movies, in literature, in basically everything. But at the same time, I'm a normal person with duties and daily routine.
I think it's part of almost everything in my life, especially for my fashion and my makeup. I like dark tones, dark colors like black and deep purple, deep red, deep green, something like that. And also for the music that I listen to, I like to listen to a lot of classic Gothic music, and I love to go to festivals and parties, and I also love learning more about the Gothic literature tradition and reading more in that field, also in modern terms, and therefore it's like my curiosity got sparked when I realized I'm interested in so many Gothic things more and more, and now I like actively make it part of my everyday life, but I also feel like it's just become a very important part of my life in so many aspects. And I mean, I even called my YouTube channel The Gothic Bookshelf, because I felt that it captures a lot of my interest and personality in one name pretty well. So we're now coming to an end with this video. It was a pleasure for me to talk about all the experiences and things Gothic, and also to listen to Helga and hear about her experiences. Thank you, Helga, again for making this cooperation with me. I would love to meet you in person in the future. And for now, thanks for watching, and please check out the other videos on her channel and on my channel about Gothic subculture. I will link some in the description and here as well. See you in my next video. Bye bye.